Hello, and welcome to the webinar on the 2025 reporting period for aircraft operators on the EU ETS by the NEA, the Dutch Emissions Authority. My name is Philip Sol. I'm Inspector Aviation at the Dutch Emissions Authority, and I'll be talking to you today together with my colleague Sofie Abels, advisor at the NEA. So today we'll talk to you about a couple of subjects. So here we have the agenda. We'll commence with the ETS compliance cycle, then we'll move on to a reflection on the 2024 reporting period, which was the first period with the new reporting requirements in the MRR. We'll address the biofuels, the feed support, the Article 8 visibility requirement, and the ETS reporting tool. Then moving on to the 2025 reporting for biofuels and finishing up by Anna-Sophie on the MRV for the non-CO2 effects and needs tool. Starting with the ETS compliance cycle, I think most of you are very familiar with the compliance cycle in and by itself. So March 31st is the deadline to submit your verified annual emissions report. And this will be the second year that you'll be able to apply for the feed support, and the first year that you'll have to report on your non-CO2 aviation effects. Then by August 31st, the Commission will publish their decision on the feeds allocation. So if you apply it, you'll know by the 31st of August the amount of free allowances you'll be able to get under the support scheme. And by September 30th, same as last year, is the deadline to report or surrender your emission allowances. A reflection on the 2024 reporting period, which was the first year with the new reporting requirements under the MRR. And there were some observations which we'd like to share with you. And last year we collected these and we gave some feedback to the individual aircraft operators on these. But we did not ask those aircraft operators to submit a corrected version as it was the first year. This year, though, we'll have special attention to these items, so please ensure that you report them correctly, and if not, we may come back to you asking for a correction in case needed. Okay, so then starting with the reflection on the 2024 reporting period, last year was the first reporting year with the new requirements from the MRR. And yeah, there were some encountered reporting areas across the submitted emission reports. And we gave feedback to the individual aircraft operators on these items, just as a FYI. We did not ask for a corrected annual emission report. This year, though, if we do encounter these errors, we may come back to the aircraft operator asking for a revised annual emissions report. There are three items which I'd like to highlight. One is item 5B1 of your annual emissions report in relation to the reporting of the greenhouse gas emission savings of the alternative aviation fuels. The second one is the item number 10, so the level of support, which is linked to the type of fuel used and or the aerodrome which is being reported. And then lastly is the attribution of the alternative aviation fuels to the city pairs. And the technical requirements, which mainly means the 50% blend limit when attributing alternative fuels to city pairs. And then finally, there were some questions on the calculation factor of the EM total. So the total emissions needed to calculate the proportionality factor, so we'll address that as well. So starting with the reporting of the greenhouse gas emission saving figure for the alternative aviation fuel. The slide shows some of the examples. So one example we encountered was a greenhouse gas saving of 100%, which would be fantastic. And maybe the reason why it's 100% is with the rationale that alternative aviation fuels, you can zero rate on your emissions report. So zero rating is a 100% greenhouse gas savings. Although this is not what's meant with the requirement here. So here you really need to report the greenhouse gas saving as stated on your proof of sustainability for reporting purposes. Another example was 2,500% savings, which difficult to achieve anyway. So that will be probably a typo or something else. And the third line is what we typically expect as a greenhouse gas saving level for HEFA or SAF, ranging between 25 and 96, 97%. So again, check your proof of sustainability. The greenhouse gas savings will be declared there, and you can use that for the annual emissions report. And if you consolidate different batches of fuel, you can take the weighted average and report that here as well. Then moving on to the level of support. So for feed support, different fuels are eligible for different levels of support. You can find the levels of support in the annual emissions report template under item 5. And typically for aviation biofuel, which means SAF or HEFA, is 50%. So whenever you use that type of fuel, you should enter 50% support level. The only exemption is when you uplift this SAF and report this alternative aviation fuel from airports which are eligible for 100% support. So those are more airports located in the periphery, which less access to SAF infrastructure. And for instance, in the Netherlands, those would be Maastricht Airport or Ede Groningen Airport, which even though if you use aviation biofuel, which from the fuel type itself is eligible for 50%, if you uplift this at one of these airports, you can use 100% to stimulate also the uptake of those fuels at those airports. Then, last but not least, the use of the alternative aviation fuel you need to attribute to city pairs, taking into account a set of technical limitations. And the one which will be reflected in your annual emission report is the blend limit. So whenever you use a SAF, you need to attribute that to your city pairs, taking into account the 50% blend limit. So some examples we encountered is that on one city pair, there was no fossil fuel, only SAF, so a 100% blend, if you can call it that. So that's exceeding the 50%. And some other examples where the blend was 70, 80%. In any case, above the 50%, is not allowed according to the current requirements from the MRR. So whenever you do the attribution, please take into account the 50% blend limit. And again, last year we did not ask for corrections, but if we do encounter it this year, we'll ask you to potentially resubmit your annual emissions report. And in addition, with all these items just mentioned, we'll also inform the verifiers that that they take extra care to check these items. Then moving on to the proportionality factor. So as you know, if you cannot physically attribute biofuels to the aircraft itself, you can use the proportionality factor to calculate the proportionality factor you have to apply on your total use of alternative aviation fuels. And there was some debate on what is the EM total. So how do I get to the emissions total from the departing flights of the reported airport? And that is it's really straightforward. All flights really means all flights. So none of the exemptions which may apply on the ETS, CORSIA, or whichever scope are irrelevant. So all flights really means all flights, which kind of makes it simple going forward. So it will give you the most conservative proportionality factor. And yeah, rule of thumb, all flights is all flights. Really easy. Then we continue with the feeds Article 8, the visibility requirement. Under the feeds regulation, if you apply for the free allowances and you get awarded the free allowances, you have to comply with the Article 8, which is the visibility requirement of the feeds regulation, which lays out where you have to communicate and acknowledge the EU Union support of free allowances to the public and different media outlets. So the article in itself is quite limited in the description of how you should comply with it and by when. And the aircraft operators, you have asked for some additional guidance on how do we comply with this article. So there's an initiative from the Task Force Aviation that we're working on a quick guide, which kind of details all the different things you have to consider when complying with the Article 8 requirement. And the timeline for that is that we expect to have a quick guide published before the end of the year so that you can use that If you applied for the feeds in 2024, right, you can use that to implement the requirement ASAP. And if you will apply for the next reporting year, then you can refer to this quick guide if you're awarded the allowances. Moving on to the EU ETS reporting tool, which is the online platform that you use to submit your annual emission report of your verified annual emission report. So also the verifiers have a active role there. And there's no material changes on the portal itself. It's only a quick reminder to check that those people will need to have an account, indeed have an account. If not, please register so that by March 31st, which is still some time in the future, that at least you have the right people set up and you can access and so on and so forth. The only feedback from 2024 is that sometimes the process kind of ended with the verifier, as they also needed to submit the verification button on the ETS reporting tool. So if you do speak to your verifier, please notify them, and we'll definitely do the same so that we have a smooth process also for this year. Reporting of biofuels in 2025. So 2024 was the first year that we had the various solutions to report on the use of alternative of sustainable aviation fuels. And there's a couple of different scenarios. So one is by far the most straightforward. If you as an end user or aircraft operator have access to the proof of sustainability, so if you get that from your fuel supplier, obviously then you can use the proof of sustainability in your reporting and have that submit that to your verifier for checking of the sustainability criteria from the red. If not, the second scenario would be that your fuel supplier is certified by ISSC for the proof of compliance scheme. If that's the case, then your fuel supplier will be able to provide you with a proof of compliance, which you can then use for your sustainability claims on your annual reporting. And the last scenario, scenario number 3, is when neither of those documents are available. So the proof of sustainability is being retained and surrendered by your fuel supplier to the NEA, and they do not have a ISCC add-on for the proof of compliance scope. Then you can use the temporary solution parallel claiming of biofuels aviation, which means that we have a link with the NEA registry that we can then use to verify and check the sustainability claims made by the end users, meaning US aircraft operators. So all these figures and schemes you can check at the NEA website as well, but this is a little bit the flow chart of the different scenarios. So again, in case you have a POS, you use that POS to substantiate your claim of sustainable aviation fuel, and we as the NEA can check and request you to provide that for us to double check the claims. So next to the sustainability document, i.e. the POS, you will also need to prove the physical delivery of your aviation fuels. And you can do that by a number of different documents. The main requirement is that it proves physical delivery. So it can be a product transfer document, a invoice, a fuel delivery ticket, what have you. So as long as it proves the physical delivery, the format is really up to you, as long as it has the relevant information. Then, in case the POC is available, it's a very similar process to the POS. You receive the POC from your fuel supplier, you submit that on your reporting, the NEA can check, and next to the POC, you will need to provide a document for proving that you have physical delivery of the fuels. And again, for example, this could mean the product transfer document and or an invoice. And then the last option, which requires the most coordination, I'd say, between yourself as aircraft operator and end user and your fuel supplier, is that in case there's neither a POS or a POC, your fuel supplier will need to register additional information in the registry. So when they book the biofuels in the NEA registry for the national opt-in under the red, then they'll have to add you, aircraft operator, as end receiver, including the POS number, delivery date, volume, so that we can then cross-check that with your claims in the annual emission report. And again, just to ensure that you remember, is that you need to have the proof of physical delivery as well. And the one thing on the physical delivery, which is different this year than last year, is that we dropped the requirement to have a link to your proof of sustainability or POC on the physical delivery document. So before we were requesting to have the POS or POC number on the PTD or invoice. And we kind of dropped that because in the evaluation, it became apparent that both the invoicing and the issuance of sustainability documents are very different timelines on issuing. Therefore, it makes it quite complicated, if not impossible, to have the POS number at time of invoicing, as it happens way earlier in the time frame. So, in the end, we believe we still have enough robust enough system if we drop that requirement. Then a short outlook into 2026. We've been receiving some questions on what the requirements will be in the 2026 reporting period, as the aviation sector is neither a mandated sector in the implementation of the RED 3 or is a opt-in option under the RED 3, meaning that the link with the registry at the NEA will not be possible any longer. So currently, I mean, we're exploring various options as how we can address those situations also in 2026 when neither the POS or the POC is available. And yeah, again, we're exploring what could be a possible alternative, and we'll inform you guys in due time so that you'll be able to prepare accordingly for the 2026 reporting period. And then, last but not least, yeah, in case you're looking for some additional resources or information, you can always refer to the NEA website, where we've detailed the different scenarios and the requirements again. We have the AESA Quick Guide, which is a quick guide made for reporting of alternative aviation fuels by the Task Force Aviation. So that's currently being reviewed, and yeah, we expect to publish an updated version sometime Q1 as of next year. We'll inform you via a newsletter or the usual channels in case that is being published so that you can use that to your advantage. Then the ISSC website is a good website to check the quick guide or the guidance on the use of proof of compliances in case you're not familiar with that. So have a look there. And last but not least, the Commission website is also where the news is being published. And it's not on the slide, but in case most of you know how to find the NEA help desk, so we're always available there as well to address any questions in case you have those. And with that, I've come to the end of my presentation, and I'll hand over to my colleague Sofie, who will discuss a bit with you on the requirements for the non-CO2 effects, and good luck with your 2025 reporting.
Thanks for introducing me, Philip. My name is Sofie. Today I will talk a bit about the new requirement under the EU ETS for aircraft operators, which is the MRV of non-CO2 aviation effects. On behalf of the European Commission, Eurocontrol has developed an IT tool that helps to facilitate the monitoring, reporting and verification of non-CO2 aviation effects. Some key features of this IT tool is the uploading of flight data by aircraft operators. It will compute your non-CO2 aviation effects. It eventually will generate a report, which you can then submit with your normal CO2 annual emissions report. And it helps you to comply with the current legislation and also within the required time frame. The tool is available using this link. It's needs.eurocontrol.int. And we've also sent around a newsletter in October, which gives more information for you how to access the tool and also relevant information. So currently you can find all relevant information on the Needs user group SharePoint, also hosted by Eurocontrol. To get access, you can scan this QR code. And then in this SharePoint environment, you can find detailed explanations on how to access Needs, how to upload data and Needs, but also past presentations and slides. Then again, it's important for you to also get an account for Needs, so the IT tool itself. And these two accounts are different, so your Needs account is different than your account for the SharePoint group. So how do you get access to Needs? You first need to have a Eurocontrol Azure B2C account, and then you can set up an account and set up your two-factor authentication. If you're the first user to register to an aircraft operator, you're the focal point, which means that you can manage all user management of your organization. And again, more information is also found on the SharePoint site hosted by Eurocontrol. Also, if you have questions or you can't access your accounts, please contact Eurocontrol at needs@eurocontrol.int. I would like to highlight that currently we're still in a pre-needs phase. So it's important, or you're obliged to monitor some data, which is the flight information and also the aircraft properties. And this data you can then upload into needs. If you intend to use primary data, you can also access other data such as fuel properties or flight trajectories. And the required format is JSON. And once again, there's more information can be found on the SharePoint. So the current timeline for introducing needs, the first version was launched in September. We're still waiting for the second release. And the final release is scheduled end of 2025, January 2026. And with that final release, you can then you will be able to generate your report and hand that in together with your annual emissions report. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you good luck on your year-end reporting. And please reach out to us if you have any more questions. Goodbye.